Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Cohasset School Committee on Wednesday, August 9th, 2017 at 7:04 p.m. with a reminder that all all regular school committee meetings are televised and recorded. So could we have a roll call, please?
Present Barbara Stefan.
Present Katie Dugan.
Present Gina Stino.
Present Ellen Mar. Present Jen Madden.
Great, okay. And we will now say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is invitation to speak. Does anyone have anything? Okay, then we will move on to approval of the warrant. This was a huge stack of bills. Not any larger than normal, but it was about this big because it was a couple of weeks worth. So this is warrant 18-02S. And do I have a motion to approve the warrant?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so it was moved by Mrs. Dugan and seconded by Mrs. Stefan. All in favor, roll call please.
Aye, Barbara Stefan.
Aye, Katie Dugan.
Aye, Gina Stino.
I abstain, Ellen Mar. Aye, Jen Madden.
Okay. And next is the superintendent's report.
Hello.
Hello.
I think you have a letter in your packet from the nurse who has spent a great deal of time in our district, has retired, Mary Master Marino. So I'm bringing that to your attention, and certainly want to thank her for all of the many Band-Aids that she put out, and all the headaches, and all the stomach aches, and all of the very serious other things that she's dealt with. So I wanted to bring that to your attention.
Very good.
About how long has she been in the district?
I want to say, I'm not going to venture a guess.
Okay.
Because I have to look that up.
I can tell you she would have been on step 8 this year, if that helps.
Oh, okay.
But I don't, that doesn't mean she was here for 7 years.
Yeah.
Right.
More than that, I think.
Yeah.
I don't venture a guess. I should look
Okay.
that up.
You know what it was? I think the nurses started they were on limited in terms of the number of steps.
That's right.
They
just
started
went
moving
in
up.
the teacher's column, teacher's contract or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think she started out part-time, then went to full-time, and then went back to part-time.
Correct.
So she's been here for a while.
Right.
So we certainly thank her for her years of service.
And the nurse that was job sharing with her at Deer Hill is able to go full-time, is that correct?
Correct.
Oh, that's great.
Very good.
That's great.
At the moment.
Just one request, and this retirement letter kind of jogged it for me. At some point, would it be possible to do a forecast on salaries now that hiring is kind of coming to a close? And I don't know whether that's something we want to do in budget and finance in August, or it'd be better served in September when it's all kind of wrapped up with a bow. I think you're pretty close.
I think we want to wait till at least September, because we had hired someone yesterday who resigned today.
Oh.
So I think we may want to wait a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll put that on the tickler list for September.
Let's just say she changed her mind. So,
Is that why the, that posting went out from Jennifer today for the long-term sub?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
So, yes, so we have candidates in, but it's not going to be an issue, it's just, we're not quite settled.
Almost, so close.
We try homework. You also have a number of gifts to approve. I don't even know where to begin with such generosity, so I want to thank a number of people. The first you have was given to Ron Ford in the sum of $2,000 to help underwrite the cost of operating the summer fitness program at the middle high school. It's a result of continued generosity with a partnership community like Pilgrim Bank Foundation. It's the 3rd consecutive year, so we really want to thank them greatly. That is a $2,000 gift for the fitness center, and it needs your vote.
Okay. So do I have a motion to accept the very kind donation from Friends of Cohasset football.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, okay. For support of the middle high school fitness center in the amount of $2,000. Do
So moved.
I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Roll call, please.
I, Barbara Stefan.
Aye, Katie Dugan.
I, Gina Stino.
I abstain, Ellen Mark, because John worked at the fitness center.
Okay,
So I'm not gonna vote.
that's great. Thank you.
Jen Madden.
Okay.
We have another gift from South Shore Music Melody. It closed a check for $5,000. It's voted on the Community Trust Committee in response to an application for upgrading the benches, soccer tables, and new signage. It's a result of 2018 grant application. I don't know, Ron, you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yep, this is a continuous grant that we get from the South Shore Playhouse Associates. They funded our alcohol EDU education program that we have for ninth graders in the PE class that I teach. And every year I apply for, roughly a $5,000 grant. This year would be to upgrade some of the alumni field, add 2 new benches to alumni field, a new scorer's table to the other side, which would match the benches, and then to do some logo banners around the field, kind of spruce it up. So, they were generous enough in giving that donation.
What's a logo banner? Like, what do you
Like you see
mean?
when sometimes, when you go to like college and stuff, stuff hanging on the light post, so you'd have like C flags. We could do something in front of the, on the bleacher, the side of the bleacher, to kind of close the bleacher in. You can do something in front of the bleachers,
Okay.
something hanging on the fence, windscreen maybe around the field, so.
Okay. It's not advertising banners, it's all
No, it's all,
Cohasset
it would
Skippers
be
logo
Cohasset
stuff.
Skippers banner, it's
Okay.
just, so we have to, what I wanna do is once it's approved, I purchase the benches, see what we have left for budget, and then bring a company like Big Signs who does that and try to get a quote for as much as we can get for the logo banner for the field.
Are the benches going to replace all of the benches?
No, we're not gonna replace them, we're actually gonna add 2 benches. We have to move benches from side to
Right.
side a lot.
Right.
So what we're gonna do is keep 2 benches on this side, buy 2 additional ones, so we can leave 4 on the other side, and then a scorer's table, which will match that same blue metal frame. It's the same exact material that will be in the middle of the field over there, so we would have a nice setup over
Right.
there.
Well, the scores table, that's not a permanent because you've got football on that side.
No, yeah, it's not permanent, they move just like the benches. It's the same material,
Okay.
it's just like the benches, but
Alright.
it's just a smaller, upright, like, almost like a picnic bench.
Okay.
And you feel attached.
And obviously no electronics, it's not gonna be
No,
hooked to the
no,
scoreboard or
it's
anything like
just-
that.
It's
Okay.
basically just a table for when we have our soccer and lacrosse games, to feel like games that the
On
schools
that
can
side,
sit
right.
on.
Okay.
Any more questions? No? Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the gift of South Shore Music Circus and Cape Cod Melody Tent in the amount of $5,000 to upgrade benches, scorer's table, and new signage?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Barb second.
All in favor, roll call, please.
I, Barbara Stefan.
Aye, Katie Dugan.
I, Gina Stino.
I, Ellen Mar. I, Jen Madden.
Thank you. We have another the Clark Chatterton Fund for $4,000. This is also an annual gift for the Summer Fitness Center, open to grades 6 to 12. I don't know if, Juan, you want to speak to that? That's been a very active,
It's been a program that we've been able to have free for all our students, open to all our students. We roughly have anywhere from 20 to 30 kids use that center every day, in the morning and in the afternoons, Monday through Thursdays. We also have a running program out there that I run for kids, a speed training program. So that's all been able to fund that program, the staffing for that, and keep it free of charge. So any kid who wants to work out in the summer can work out there. And that grant will also include the purchase of hopefully 2 spin bikes and some additional equipment for the fitness center.
Okay, thank you.
and
Does
that's
anybody have any-
supervised by teachers, correct?
Teachers and coaches, yes.
Coaches.
Does anyone have any questions?
The equipment that you're buying, the spin bikes and the strength training, I'm just remembering we had a gift last year from BlackRock.
Yeah.
How's that equipment? Is it holding up?
Oh, it's
Is it works
Yeah,
in?
we were able to get rid of some older equipment that we had.
Okay.
that had been there for a long time and that replaced it, and it's fabulous.
Okay.
It's really top-notch stuff.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the $4,000 donation from the Clark Chatterton Fund to support the summer fitness and weight training program and purchase additional equipment for the fitness center?
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Who was
Go
that?
for it, Jen.
Jen, okay.
Jen got it.
All right, all in favor, roll call please.
I, Barbara Stefan.
I, Katie Dugan.
I, Gina Stino.
I abstain, Ellen Mar, for the same reason as before.
I, Jen Madden.
Thank you. We have another gift. It's a good giving year. Dr. Aaron Chenette, and I think he's here. And he is offered to donate sports mouth guards for the varsity football team. He's a member of the Gridiron and would custom fit and create mouth guards. So I'm going to let him explain a little bit, or Ron explain if you would, to the sum of $3,100.
They're not, nothing's concussion proof, but these are, you take impressions of the top and bottom teeth and you take a bite in a relaxed spot, and that's recorded in the mouth guard. So it's gonna be about 5 millimeters thick, and it cushions the mandible or the lower jaw on impact, which usually goes up and hits the base of the skull, and causes most of the concussions. It's not gonna stop a concussion from the side blows, but it's definitely gonna stop a player's going forward and they meet and stop at a very high speed and come to a complete stop. It's gonna minimize the impact of that. And it's what you see all the NFL players wearing now. They're custom made, and they'll have their names on them on the back. And I'm trying to get the Cohasset logo to be right up on the front. That'll be nice. So if they drop them on the field, which I don't recommend putting them back in your mouth, but at least their name's on it, so they'll be able to tell who's who.
Hopefully keep them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're not
Yeah.
gonna have the strap to the helmet, are they, like a traditional
You don't
$2
need
mouth
them
guard?
anymore for
No,
prevention.
they're not
Okay.
necessary. We buy them for our football players and the mouth guards that we use, but it's no longer required that you have the strap to
Okay.
it.
I can add the strap.
Mm.
It's just they, yeah.
I'll get that confirmed, but I believe that they took that piece out, you know, as long as the mouth guard's visible.
Right, and then the kids, they stick them in the
Yeah,
face
you see
mask.
everybody doing now. That's
you
the
know,
thing to
sticking
do,
them up
sticking
there.
them in the face mask.
And I understand they will not be required, they will be offered.
Offered, yeah.
Correct.
I won't have any, nothing will be my business, to be honest.
And they're fitted in your office, correct?
I was gonna do it here to make it logistically easier. I'd come down with some staff members and donate time and just bring all the equipment, all the OSHA material, the gloves and the sanitary stuff, and just take impressions of the kids as Coach A would release them, and I'll just take impressions, upper and lower impressions, and a bite registration, and then bag it up and box it for a lab in California that's gonna make them all.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Of course.
No, because I remember.
Football's your thing.
Well, it is. I mean, I remember a long time ago with Psycho, when my kids played in Psycho, we talked about it, but the price was much more expensive. They were like $300 to $350 at that point in time. So, I mean, Johnny's 25, so
Yeah.
figure, you know,
They're about-
12, 15 years ago.
My cost is probably about $1.25, depending on how fancy they get with the logos.
Yeah.
It can be anywhere from 125 to 150 to make. I don't know, the $300 might be the,
That was when they first came out, and everybody
Yeah.
was touting them. So it was a retail price, not a wholesale price.
And technology's changed a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that been brought forward to us hasn't been the type of product that would go through a dentist's office and would be
Yeah.
custom made. They're more of a standard product that came out when the concussion issues became bigger. This is what he's talking about, is the type of product that college or an NFL type
Right.
player would use. This is a very high quality product.
and it stays in, they don't have, and it's like a suction cup, it stays on their top teeth, and they can speak with it in their mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, minimal. You know,
So in reading this, you have for 25 players.
I estimated the varsity to be 25. Logistically, that would be easy for me to do. If I can only do the varsity, that would be probably my donation. If it's the whole school, then it's gonna get, price-wise, just too much of a donation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But would you offer it up for cost for the sub-varsity players?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll get the exact figure on how much they're gonna be, because I was given a guesstimate, because depending on what graphics and their name and everything like that on it, so.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
definitely.
only because on any given day, you could have a sophomore or a junior who, you know, fills in for someone who's hurt or,
I totally understand, yeah.
Mhm.
But I think if, as a parent, if I had a freshman who was
Yeah.
offered, I'd probably pay for it.
Yeah, very good. I'll try to make there's different grades. The category 5 is what I'm gonna make for most of the team. The category 6 is for blunt trauma, for someone that doesn't have any face protection. That would be like a hockey player with a shield, or a boxer.
A soccer
Right.
player.
Soccer
Rugby.
player, yeah, anybody
Yeah.
that doesn't have their face
Yeah.
covered, girls field hockey or girls lacrosse.
Okay, this is gonna sound really silly. You might wanna look into the straps, because I know they're gonna have their names on them,
Yeah,
but I think it's easier for them to lose them if there's nothing holding it to them.
They'll cut them off.
You think?
Oh,
They
yeah.
do that? Okay, never mind,
I did
You
mine.
got a dad and a mom here, a football player who just graduated,
Okay.
they cut them off.
never mind.
And then they chew on the nub because then it irritates the inside of
Yeah.
the lips, and they chew on the inside of it.
This isn't the
All these
most guard that
football
you chew through.
things.
No,
Yeah.
You won't be so successful, I would think.
Be quite impressed.
Okay, well, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
we appreciate this.
Thank you.
Coming tonight.
Always keeping our kids safe is foremost in our minds, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion to accept Dr. Chanet's very generous donation of $3,100 in custom-made mouth guards for the varsity football team?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please, all in favor?
I, Barbara Steffen.
I can do it.
Aye, Gina Stino.
Hi, Ellen Mar.
I, Jen Madden.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, pinch me, I'm not sure I can go on with all of this great donation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I just keep reminding myself how fortunate we are, but we have two very generous ladies here representing some very thoughtful community members and many, many members. So Cindy and Jennifer are here, so I give you the floor.
Thank you. Let me just say, Jen is
Jen,
now
sorry.
taking over the helm as president of
Oh.
CEF for the next 2 years, so she's in charge.
Congratulations.
They got you.
Thank you. This is my first school committee meeting as the president, I guess. But we are thrilled to be here and thrilled to be presenting this check for $95,000 from the CEF for the Learning Commons project. It's the culmination of a year's worth of fundraising and marketing and partnership with the schools and our community, from individuals, families, and corporations, and we couldn't be happier that we met, exceeded our fundraising goal, and that the project managers and the team, the task force, is managing to make this come in under budget and on time. So we can't wait for the reveal in the fall. We're so excited, and we're talking to Louise earlier about ways that we can really make this an inviting space, not just for the students, but for the community as well. So that's kind of on our docket for the first part of the year, is to brainstorm and be creative about working with the Paul Pratt Library and other community organizations, because it really will be a beautiful space, and we want everyone in the community to have access to it. So we're here to present this is the culmination of this year's fundraising. It brings our total contribution for the Learning Commons to $248,959.81.
Unbelievable.
So,
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like I need to clap. Like I said, pinch me, I can't believe it. The shades are in, the commons our walls are painted, touched up, whatever we needed to touch up did. We extended into Sue Skeeber's room off the Learning Commons for her digital learning, professional development and consult. The shades went in today. We're waiting for furniture. We are just beside ourselves, so it's very, very, very exciting. So thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Ellen?
And it needs
I
to
just,
go.
huh?
Yep, go ahead.
No, I just have a comment, because it came up in another topic. I'm wondering if the new town magazine, Life on the Rocks, would be a good vehicle to present the grand
Funny
opening.
you should mention that.
Oh, okay.
Because I just, I told Patrice we would do the whatever meet your
Okay.
neighbors section. So I
Okay.
did an interview yesterday with Michelle Deininger
Oh,
and
okay,
tried to
great.
talk up a lot about
Great.
the CF. So there may be some there, but yes, that was something that we talked about
Yeah.
promoting.
And there was
through
also,
too.
we were contacted by South Shore Living.
Oh, yeah.
Just they were
Great.
doing a spread on education foundations on the South Shore.
Yeah.
So it's another opportunity for us to kind
Yeah.
of boost this Learning Commons project as well.
Didn't they talk to Carolyn before about the Learning Commons? There was a
They
little
did.
Yes,
about
yeah.
Carolyn talking about it, right?
Carolyn Connolly, yes, they did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just, it's such a such a fresh magazine and everyone's reading it because
Right.
it's so new.
It is, right.
That it's a great time to
Mhm.
really expose it, you know, and you can take photos of it and, you know, it'll look great.
I think once it's in there, it's the perfect opportunity to have them come and practice.
Right.
By the time they have an October issue, they'll have photos from the
Photos
beginning
of
of the school.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
finished project.
That's great.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so very
Yeah.
much.
It's
I got
amazing.
a quick preview, you know, before anything, before it's obviously completed, but the colors and the carpet
The
and the
dance
walls.
It's
It's very,
great.
it's lovely.
It is. It really resonated with the community too, obviously, in terms of what we were able to do for fundraising, so.
Can we get copies of that?
Yeah.
Yes. We'll get you
A
copies.
lot of work, but a great team that pulled it off, so.
Amazing. It's great, so thank you. It's a vote.
Okay, so we'll vote on this, and then we'll ask about that, okay? So, could I have a motion to accept the very generous, final check in the amount of $95,000 for our Learning Commons?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call please.
I, Barbara Steffen.
All right, Katie Dugan?
Aye, Gina Stino.
I, Eleanor.
I, Jen Madden.
Okay, and there's a transfer of monies on there, that
Reallocation of.
reallocation of funds. Do we have
Unused
to,
grants.
do we have to agree,
Vote that,
Vote
John?
that.
That's already been voted in,
I thought we had,
the reallocation.
Yeah, so it's just CEF that has to vote,
It's
CEF
yeah.
that has to vote
We
it.
took a vote before the end of the year to reallocate monies that have been sitting in unused grants.
right,
For, it's cleaning up our gift accounts and putting the monies to good use.
okay, so,
Gotcha. So we voted to accept the money at a previous date, and you're voting,
Exactly.
you
You're
as a
just
board voted to reallocate.
Send monies that were,
Moving
like,
around.
it makes it a cleaner
Yeah.
slate for us.
right.
There's, some of them are like $3, but we can
We can zero it
zero out
out.
the accounts, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Denise,
Thank
for
you.
all your hard work.
Oh.
We truly appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the space
It's been a
totally
real
complete.
pleasure. Hopefully, many years of appreciation to come too.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Has it been voted on?
Yes.
We already
Oh, we
voted,
did,
yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Can you second it?
I second.
Okay, all right. I wrote it down.
An update on facilities and building maintenance, if we can start with the outside here, as Kennedy Gardens has been very generous in helping us to beautify our opening area. We have a sign coming in for the outside for the administrative offices and stenciling on the door. They have done the plantings and the mulching and the wall, and we still have the poles that are going to be scraped and painted, so much more attractive entrance. Also, if you notice, although you're supposed to be paying attention to, it is now a one-way through our parking lot. It is an entrance and exit. We're going
I
to have
drove
to-
up there and I missed it.
I think
I've
the
been
sign is
looking for it
high.
every time.
And I think what we may have to do is put a pylon on each end where it would be the entrance lane, just to let people know that it is a one-way to prevent a lot of that head-on collision kind of thing.
I was envisioning something on the ground, I guess.
There are arrows on the ground, they're just small. Yeah, it's,
Okay.
I think we need more
I
visible.
think you need a traffic person out there the first few days of school so
Um,
that people get it.
I
Well,
don't know.
when I
I can
think,
see you now with your,
no, but I think,
sash.
I think when cars are exiting here, there's not gonna be room for a car to come in.
Oh, okay.
I think it's gonna be a natural,
Okay.
I think it's gonna take a little bit of time.
A little bit of
We
time.
spent years and years and years of just coming up the hill and taking a left.
Mhm.
And
I'm thinking that if there's.
Sooner rather than later, after you do it a few times, it starts to make sense.
Well, ever since you mentioned that you wanted to do that, I've just been automatically doing it.
Right.
So, but I haven't pulled out that way.
I also think the repainting, when it does happen futuristically, will have to be at an angle, and that will automatically make people go this way in order to fit the angle parking lot. But
What about the rest of our signs, like the speed limit signs that were part of the safety and security initiative?
right, and that's still supposed to be ongoing and coming.
I know that Jay has talked with Mark and
We have the signs,
Yes.
or no?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought.
We were responsible for getting the no trespassing signs or the video surveillance
Yeah.
signs, and those have been ordered and delivered actually a while ago, so we have those. We were not going to be getting the other signs, the speed limit signs and the parking signs, so.
That's a facilities or a DPW
Facilities,
kind of job.
I think facilities for DPW, and DPW was gonna be putting up some of the signs on facilities. So that's where those are coming from.
Okay.
All right. Well, when we finalize when we're gonna have our committee security
Mhm.
meeting, I'll make sure we talk about that.
We do.
We get-
We have to speak to that.
Right, and I think that our goal, our eye needs to be on the fact that school starts in like 3 weeks.
I've heard that.
And that should all be taken care of before school starts, because if it waits until after school starts, it's kind of, then we have to continue to try and play catch-up, so.
As far as getting the buildings ready, I think we're in good shape at the middle high school, am I correct?
Middle school's all done, and the cleaning crew has now moved into the high school, and some of the floors rooms are already done, and they're working their way around.
And the work has started at Osgood and Deer Hill, so we look like we're on time. Things are looking good, no big surprises. I don't know if there are any big repairs. The desks are coming in at the middle high school, so that there have been claims to those that are going to the dumpster for other repurposing, which is good. We're not throwing everything out. I think it's looking good.
Yeah.
And as far as even the laptops have been redone, we're in good shape. We're in very good shape at this point. So,
Very good.
any other surprises that you saw?
We've been, so far we haven't had any big surprises. It's worked well. As you know, we have our own cleaning crew now instead of using contracted cleaning services, and that seems to be working well. They are working well as a group, as a team, working and getting through the building and doing some things that we really haven't done in the summertime because we haven't had the manpower. For instance, if you went through the middle school, you hopefully wouldn't notice that they've touched up all the paint in the corridors. I mean, those kinds of things. So, yeah, we're in good shape. It's gonna be a scramble for Deer Hill and Osgood just because the rec department is so busy there. When they come out, there's a lot that has to happen in a short period of time.
Well, they're done
2 days left.
this week.
Hmm?
2 days left.
There you go.
Friday.
Who's counting?
Yeah.
Not my
So-
son, that's for sure.
So that's gonna be a bit of a scramble, but we should be okay.
So I happened to come to the business office for a meeting with John. And unfortunately, fortunately, it was the day that they were testing the fire alarms. So I was told, don't come here, go to Deer Hill. So I got to see the foyer floor there, and I have to say, it's spectacular. It's just beautiful.
Oh,
It's
the
got
blue,
the
yeah,
blue
yeah,
speckled
and
finish
this-
with the big C embedded in the
And
floor.
anti-slip too, like you're not
Yeah.
going down on that. It's
No,
really nice.
it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's the same material that we have in the main entrance here at the high school.
Mhm.
As I think the committee may remember, it really came about as a result of an insurance claim and some damage that had happened to the other tiles. Now, Mark has scheduled the rest of the entrances at Deer Hill to be done as we go through the year.
Great.
I noticed at Osgood too, the entrance is coming along. It's not quite
Mhm.
finished, but we have the double doors going in. The scanner is there. It will be ready as well, so things are coming right along.
And is the new door at the back of the high school been replaced?
Don't think
It's
been
scheduled for the
replaced.
third week in August. So yes, that's coming up, but it's scheduled to be done then. And the last time I talked to Mark, he didn't see any issues or problems with that.
Yeah.
When that door goes in, it'll also have a a card reader so that it'll take, so you won't necessarily need a key to get in, you'll be able to use what we call a fob
Yeah.
to get in and out, so it should increase security for that door as well.
And at Deer Hill, the sliding window,
I did not see it this morning, it's not in yet. Is it scheduled for,
Thought it was.
it was is it in already?
I thought it was
Maybe
in.
I just walked right by it.
I didn't.
I was so
didn't bring
intense
that.
on
I
going to
didn't-
the 3D printer that I missed it.
I think I might have it. You know, I had this thought, when we first had the, external security cameras put in, Barbara actually, once school's up and running, had a walkthrough with Chief Quigley and with, Michael Lopes at the time. It might be really helpful if we could do a walkthrough with the chief and Officer St. Ives, just to kind of review. It doesn't have to be right at the beginning of school, but in September, literally walk Osgood, Deer Hill, maybe meet another day to walk middle high school and just look at everything that has been done and what's still open. I think it would be really helpful for me to maybe just do 2 walkthroughs, Osgood, Deer Hill, because we can literally move from one campus to the next and then do another day at middle high school. I'd like to really just check them off and visualize and understand what's left on our to-do list.
I would like to do that.
So we're scheduling a subcommittee meeting, so we can certainly address it. I think if it's a walkthrough to see what's been done, probably Mark Kelly and Brian Joyce should attend, because they're the executors of the plan.
Yeah, maybe we just choose one of each. We
One
have
from each,
one from facilities and one from, we don't need an entourage, but maybe
Right.
one from the police and one from facilities.
You send that list to Jennifer on Monday, she can arrange it.
Okay,
She's not in until then.
yeah. I'll take care of that.
Thank you.
All right.
And I'm sorry, Katie, did you say before school starts or after school starts?
I was thinking after school starts, just like, because there is stuff that's going in.
It's still happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be right at the opening of school, it's just, I'd like to kind of,
Close the loop.
I'd like to close the loop, I'd like to
Okay.
really, be able to check it all off, especially as we get back into the capital budget cycle, just be able to say, you know what, we're down to Osgood responder entrance, you know, as our remaining capital investment that's been funded that hasn't been completed.
Talking about the responder entrance, Brian was in day before yesterday, for an unrelated reason, but mentioned that he's working on getting quotes to get that done.
Okay.
So that's in process.
And there was some discussion at the time around with the Osgood playground being changed, that entrance does kind of abut into the actual playground area, so before, we'd always had this discussion around the fact that if you redo that responder entrance, it has to be in concert with what you're doing with the plans for the playground.
Right.
Cause you don't wanna build this beautiful new pathway and then find that it cuts right through a portion of the playground you're putting in.
Right.
I don't envision major problems, but we've got 2 projects that are in the
Well, there's
same-
actually a third component to that too, because Brian Joyce was also, when we first started talking about this, was also looking at the drainage, because in that field
Yeah.
between the playground and going uphill, there's drainage, so his thought, at the time was if we're gonna be digging that out, we ought to take a look at the drainage, so.
Yeah, fix the drainage and the first responder at the
Yeah.
same time.
The drainage has to be fixed because part of the piping goes under the slide. That has to move.
Yeah.
So that was part of the plan, that would have to be done before the playground went in. So
Right.
that has to be cut off the playground and then the field addressed with drainage from the top. It gathers on the bottom, I guess. When I walked, he was aware of it a year ago.
Yeah.
So.
Have you been able to catch Brian this summer and Chris for a longer term maintenance conversation, so that's still pending? Okay. Good luck. I know you'll keep on chasing.
Trying.
Trying, okay.
It's just schedules, it's just a busy summer schedule.
Yeah.
And that is the update, unless you have questions.
I do not. Anyone else? Oh,
We can either talk about it now, or we can talk about it in, school committee comments and, whatever, because John and I met with Chris Senior last week on, capital budget process. And, you guys have the write-up when Louise and I went to capital budgets, and there are some updates, so if you wanna talk about it now?
just 1 second. Did you have a question on the conversation? Okay.
No.
And, yeah, we can talk, that's the next section, so we'll talk about that next.
Oh, okay. So, John and I met with, Chris Senior last week, and, Brian was supposed to be there, but he was called away to, I think, yet another Bound Brook crisis. And,
There've been many.
Brian now has an assistant, her name is Michelle Leary, and, which I think is gonna be a godsend for Brian,
Yep.
to be helpful. And so Chris wanted to know our thoughts on the new capital budget process, and so I kinda shared with him what my thoughts were and how we thought it was gonna work, and about our meeting, which I thought, going with just Louise and I, meeting with Sam and Ralph was great, because we could just be very candid.
Yeah.
And now I'm just looking for my notes that I sent to John this morning. So, we talked about that, and then we talked about, the process and Chris's vision. He recognizes that the process is kind of stringent as it's been laid out, but he does see that we're gonna be all learning as we go through this, and that dates might slide a little bit, and that the forms were designed for all and not just for, one department or another department. And, he agrees that the liaison position is going to be really critical, and they're to be helpers and not challengers.
Help facilitate the
The
conversation.
capital budget liaisons to each department are to help facilitate the requests and get the answers to the questions, and not be challenging. They're to be our partners.
Facilitators partner, not roadblocks.
Correct. So that's the vision for it. So,
I like that vision.
yeah, so,
What about the, are they calling it this, I wanna say CRT, there's a pre-meeting that.
capital review team.
The CRT, okay.
Yeah, so, I typed up notes I sent to John and I don't have them. Actually, we didn't really talk about it that much, but Michelle Leary is gonna be the keeper of the capital budget spreadsheet. That's a big change.
Ooh,
It's not
that's
gonna sit with capital budgets. And it's gonna be her responsibility to keep track of who's asking for what and what department. We did talk about, how facilities requests for fire, police, schools, IT requests for all the departments. And she's gonna be the keeper of the spreadsheet, and I owe her a review of the spreadsheet to make sure that all of the school stuff is correct, and she's gonna change the names, that some of the names are obsolete.
What the things we've been asking for.
The things we've been asking for a while.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be a positive step, because, jump in if I misspeak anything. It's going to allow, it's gonna be a working document for Chris and everyone to keep projects moving forward. So I thought that was good. Then we talked about the green communities, because that came up, and Chris sent us this information, if you wanna take one and pass it down. So, we all know that phase 2 was approved for the green communities, and so the projects have been culled down from the very extensive list on the initial phase 2 application to these, and they all have to do with the HVAC systems, and I started to read it, and it might as well have been in Greek, because it's not in my wheelhouse to understand HVAC systems.
You could start a new binder.
I could start a new binder, yes. Essentially, I think what the optimization and combustion control system is, it's to make sure that when the buildings are being used, they're being heated or cooled properly, and when the buildings aren't being used, they're being heated and cooled properly. It senses occupancy, and if there's no occupant, and if it's hot in the summertime, it doesn't need to be set at 70 for the AC and vice versa.
So you mean when it's, this room is a perfect example, if we could actually nail this room.
Right, so you can see, there's 56,300 from the middle high school, there's 73,200 for a demand controlled ventilation system for the middle high school, 23,600 for the Deer Hill.
I'm glad to see that Osgood isn't on there because we actually have spent money on Osgood
Right.
HVAC repairs.
And I believe there's still, last
still
year,
money.
Mark Kelly asked to keep that money in that account.
I forget what it was not nothing,
It
it was like
was-
seven,
So
7,000?
7,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's the official grant letter, and then the next couple of pages, and the font is huge, kind of describe exactly what these systems are.
Okay.
And then the last attachment is the projected cost savings by building and by element of what's being done.
You know, it's, and I had this conversation with Chris one-on-one, we have kind of quite a backlog of potential savings between the first grant, the second grant, and just some of the work that we've done in partnership with the Alternative Energy Committee that should be on the come, and I know that we've quantified all of it. It's a question of like, when do we start to put it into our operating budgets? And I know that's more art than science in some ways, because you wanna see it in the bills before you start banking it, but that is one of the things from a timing, I mean, this is a bad example because we haven't done any of this work,
Right,
but on
right.
the phase one grants, it's like, when do we start to see those benefits? In terms of
He
savings?
addressed that, but I don't remember what he
So
said.
Chris talked about a couple things, and I'm not fully aware of what projects match up to what.
Yeah,
One of the things he pointed out was that some of the projects we've done have been a combination of town money, incentive money from the utility companies.
Right.
And some of the money that the town has put, and in some cases, the utility company has done the work and is being paid back out of the energy savings. So once the projects are fully paid for, then we'll actually see that reduction in the bills.
Right, and that was the
And Phil
lighting,
was-
that was the
and-
lighting retrofits that were done in the
and we're
buildings.
getting close on some.
And Chris was saying that we're getting close to that point where we will stop contributing towards the cost of those changes and renovations and upgrades.
I wanna, and this is where I think for this budget cycle, I think the question becomes real, because I think when I talked to Dave about it before he left, we were in year 2 or 3, and so when we talk about budgeting for FY19, that might be the first year where you would be seeing real savings coming in. And again, it's hard to bank on something you haven't seen in terms of reduction, but I think we need to to know at least what's in the pipeline of potential savings of when they're gonna come in. And that's always been kind of murky to me, because as budgets get tighter at the town level and at the state level, I think those pennies are gonna become increasingly important to us. And there's other things like from IT, and this isn't green energy, but it's the same thing on the IT, all the IT work we've done in terms of all the network changes. Like, when do we start to see the benefit of not having so many Comcast, Verizon bills out there? I mean, those are just, there's a lot of work that we've done that the benefits,
And I think Ron has asked that question on a regular basis.
yeah.
The other topic that came up when we were meeting is Chris did put out there that if there is any equipment replacement need that is under $10,000, that he can make that one-time allocation like he did for the security gates. And so he asked the schools to think about, do you have anything that needs to be replaced, a piece of equipment or something like that, and, for the schools to think about it and get it to him, you know, as quickly as possible, because maybe he's got a few other things he's going on.
For a special town meeting.
For a special town meeting. That was one. And the other thing he talked about too, since we're talking about facilities, is if there are, you know, relatively good-sized facility projects, to let him know, because there is funding for facility improvements, and I immediately went to the middle high school gym floor, which gets lightly sanded and revarnished every year, but it's been, I think, 13 years and has never been stripped back down to wood and redone. And we had a couple of varsity players sprain ankles last year, and it's become a safety issue in my mind. So that could be something that he might entertain. We talked about, if you've noticed, the trees that came down. He said maybe, replacing the trees. And then we talked about the lineup of cars and how dangerous Pond Street is, and well, could we add in a turning lane into the high school so that if you're coming from the harbor up Pond Street at 2:10 or 2 o'clock, it's not dangerous, which led to a conversation, well, could we do a traffic study? Because, we're not gonna be, our campuses aren't gonna be less congested going forward, they're gonna be more congested going forward. So we were just kind of free flow talking about things, but these were the kinds of things that he seemed to be like, yeah, that should be something that we look at doing. Looking at the parking and the traffic flow and all of that, and especially if, we're looking at school start times and bus routes and things along those lines.
We did,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, and I can add to that, when Brian was in the other day, again, it wasn't related to this. Chris had spoken to him about the turning lane, the widening Pond Street, or a traffic study for Deer Hill Osgood. And the Deer Hill Osgood is the thought of a traffic study is sort of out there with Brian. But he's looking more immediately to see what can be done about trying to widen Pond Street with some of now that the trees are down, there may be some space there that he can get an extra lane. So that's forefront on what he's looking at.
I had a discussion with Jay St. Ives and Bill Quigley about a month and a half ago about the concern for the lineup on Pond Street at 2:10. Because invariably someone will bypass those cars into the oncoming lane. And if they're going up the hill, the likelihood of an impact is pretty great.
You can't
Right.
It's a miracle it hasn't happened already.
So that when the trees came down, Chris and I did have a discussion about the sidewalk that exists there. Now that the trees are down, can we extend the sidewalk so that it is a reserve lane?
Yeah.
The issue is we still need the sidewalk.
Right.
So that, I don't know if that's possible, but it's in the discussion. We also talked about, do we change the pattern of traffic so that students have to turn left on a one-way for the half hour? And it's an ongoing discussion because there is a danger with cars just lined up and stopped on that lane going in. So I don't know what the answer is, but it's worth continuing the discussion.
So, I mean, I thought it was positive. I thought, Chris was,
Is there also talk about the entryways, the steps here, and the entryway at Osgood where the cement needs to be redone?
no, we didn't get to that. But I think because what was the other thing, John? You had pointed out that we may need to look at the northeast wall of the middle high school.
Mark Kelly has mentioned it a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, so this masonry wall here, the concern is that perhaps it needs to be repointed and masonry worked on, which would be a somewhat expensive project. Now, when this past year they did that same kind of repair to the wall, the northeast wall for the library, and we had some leaks that had been persistent, we resolved those issues. So it seems to make sense that meantime to failure, this may be the same issue here. So that's something that would need to be budgeted for, because it will not be inexpensive.
So it's the same issue where we get a nor'easter with the winds blowing
Wind
the rain
removal.
in the wrong way, and it pounds right through the cracks in the masonry.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, not cracks in the sense of a structural failure.
No.
But just cracks in the sense that masonry has a lifespan.
Yeah.
It's the joint compound between the bricks.
Right. Well, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, you know, it's been 13 years, 14 years
Mhm.
since the renovation, and I think that, you know, there are things that we're gonna have to look
Yeah.
at, that need time. I did mention to John on email, we didn't talk about it with Chris, but it came up, cause I have an inside source, is that the locker rooms, are not properly ventilated. They're actually not there's ventilation, but it's not functioning, and there's drains in the center of every locker room floor here at the middle high school that, I guess it was designed so that when the floor is awash, that's where the wastewater goes, but it's also now become receptacles for Gatorades and water bottles, and they don't drain properly, and sometimes there's,
Well, if nobody's gone and fished out, 30 years worth of,
yeah, so I just think, I think my perspective is, we put together a wish list that's realistic, you know, not pie in the sky, but I think it would serve the community well to show that we're, you know, maintaining the buildings, cause that's what happened before, is the buildings weren't maintained.
And we got a very bad rep for it,
Yeah.
so.
just on back to the CRT, remind me
Yeah.
again what that, is supposed to accomplish and who's on it.
So the capital review team is, Chris Senior, Brian Joyce, and Ron Menard.
Okay.
And I think what they're supposed to do is take all of the requests and vet them after each department and appropriate liaisons have put together the forms. And then how the process read was then that they would make the presentation. They would submit the capital requests.
Okay. Okay.
We didn't talk about it last week, but that, if I'm recalling that, the process notes, that's
Okay.
what it was for.
So they really become the tip of the spear in terms of, before it was all of the different departments going and really it was kind of a mob scene around capital budget. Now Chris, Brian, and Ron are saying, we agree in conjunction with the departments and the liaisons, these are the top priority projects and here's the detail behind them.
Something to that effect, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we probably won't, we'll
Yeah.
probably be a blunt spear this year. but-
I think that each department is still gonna have to be present
Yep.
and argue their case and make their requests, but I think this way, every department will be supported, not only theoretically, not only by their liaisons, but also by the capital review team.
Yeah.
So that when it gets presented, there's 100% agreement and support going in.
And hopefully that means that we won't have to go to 5 different meetings stating our case and continually
Yeah.
providing detail that we've already provided.
Well,
That
and
would be delightful.
well, another thing for Chris and Brian was that they are responsible for capital budget, and yet they physically couldn't make all of the capital budget meetings in order to defend all of it. So they become the, kind of the collection point, and they represent in, 1 or 2 meetings, all of the requests formally to capital budget. It allows them to be there as advocates, which they haven't been able to play that role because it's been so diffuse. I mean, we've
Right.
all sat in meetings where we've had to ring Chris and say, come down, there's brush fire you need to put out, because he can't be at all the meetings. So hopefully, I'm excited. I think we'll learn a lot, but I think we can do better as a community around having these conversations. That's great. Thank you for going to both those meetings.
Thank you for doing that.
Well, it's enlightening for me, so I think, you know what, we need to start working on the list. I'm sure you have ideas. I think, we did talk about like replacement cycles. We talked about that actually with Sam, so I think their desks, probably phase 2 for educator desks.
We did talk about that last spring when we had talked about phasing in and out of those desks, but since most of them had been replaced at the middle high school, which was more than we had initially thought we would be able to do, we have another 5-10 years out before we start talking about cycle.
For middle high school.
Yeah.
But I think what they wanna see is, okay,
District-wide.
district-wide, so when are you gonna need desks for Osgood, and when are you gonna need them for
Right.
Deer Hill, and then by that time we'll You have to cycle back
And
in.
it's been very hard because they're saying their desks are great. So-
Oh.
Okay, gotcha. So, yeah, we have to look at, I think we may have to look at student desks and what's suitable for them, but, yeah.
I got the sense that they just want, as far out, if we can get 5 years out on replacements, on technology leases and bus leases or whatever we're gonna do with buses, as far out as we can, I think that's, with legitimate, real, numbers, and for all departments. That's kind of the goal. So, and then, you have, Jennifer had printed out the, massive spreadsheet,
Yep.
Yes.
and,
So this is the one, the final one for year end, basically is where we ended.
this is the March 15th, this is the
It
last
hasn't been
spread.
edited.
It hasn't been edited, it hasn't been updated since March 15th, 2017. It's the same one I got from Sam last week that I forwarded to everybody on
Okay.
email. It's going to be Michelle Leary's job to vet this and,
Okay.
make sure everything is as it should be, because I think.
I will go through it for the 10th time.
Yeah, maybe we can take the dark blue off the
Yeah, it's
school
hard to
section.
see.
because we can't-
So we can read it?
Yeah, and change names and things, and take things off that, don't belong here, which we had done that process last year, which I think there were things like, high school gym air handlers from 2015. I mean, is that here in 2025 for $125,000? $120,000, I mean, are those really things that need to be done? Osgood roof.
I mean, this is part of this longer term facilities replacement cycle conversation,
Right. But we were finding that there were so many things that were still on there that had been done.
Yeah.
I just thought it would be helpful for everyone to have this
No, I appreciate
at
that.
the top of mind, so that as we go forward and we see the next version of it, after Michelle takes a stab at it, I think that it would be,
It's interesting, they have the senior center purchase under schools. If you look at this in the green on the first page.
yeah, I don't think we're gonna be doing that.
Maybe they had me in mind, I don't know.
Oh, man. Okay, so that's food for thought. All right, and, I think that the agenda that's on the table is different from this one that came in the packets, is it? Because I thought that the school committee calendar was on the agenda.
It's the annual agenda.
Yeah, no, I thought that that was on here.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, we skipped it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, don't mind me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, since that was kind of a subcommittee report, does anybody else have any reports before we go on to the school committee calendar?
Couple from my end. So I talked to Chris Senior today about two things. I wanted to follow up with him on those dormant accounts. And it has gone to town council. The response back from town council is that this is not something that actually needs to go to special town meeting. The path forward that town council was actually suggesting was that we could actually take those dormant accounts and convert them into transfer and convert those funds into existing gift counts that exist for elder affairs and for school committee. The thought process with that was that obviously we weren't going to reopen the election of donations on the tax bill. We weren't going to go and formally accept the Mass General Law to do that. We would just take the existing monies that had been donated previously, the $16,000 for the schools and roughly $4,000 for elder affairs, and move them out of dormant accounts and transfer them into active gift accounts. Town council seemed to think that that was the appropriate thing to do. And so it's now with Paula in Treasury, who I guess has the authority to do this for her review. And so I really think it's down to a conversation between Chris, Paula, and you, John, once they get comfortable with the recommendation that town council's come forward with, just to facilitate this. So, because the good news was that we don't have to have a warrant article for special town meeting to facilitate this. The other thing that he did say to me is that there are some preliminary numbers for free cash flow for year-end FY17, and it's kind of in the, they're not final yet, but it's in the $900,000 to $1 million of free cash flow, which has been pretty much the norm the last couple of years. Last year was obviously significantly higher due to the tax deferrals that came into play. We didn't have any major tax deferrals. And so that was good news. It was positive, robust free cash flow. He raised again the fact that the majority of this is just going to get transferred into stabilization accounts like we have historically, whether it's OPEB or road, or infrastructure. He did ask that we formally request, as part of that stabilization transfer, the transfer of $25,000 into the SPED reserve fund. Remember how we had voted? So he just wanted a paper trail, Jean. So I thought if you could send an email to Chris and to Mary formally requesting.
That will need to go on the warrant.
It will need to go in the warrant, but there's already a placeholder
Yeah.
that's in the special town meeting warrant, and we're just requesting as one of the several transfers that $25,000 be transferred, but he wanted it in writing,
Yeah.
so you didn't have to remember it. And he reiterated that this isn't one of these years where we have a lot of money for extra projects, but he did say that smaller one-time expenses, he was open to hear that jives with what you were saying, under $10,000, because he had a couple that he needed to do on the town side.
Okay, so I would suggest that if we're going to do this and request it, that we need to vote on it.
We did
We
vote
already
on-
did.
Did we, on the 25,000?
Yeah.
On the year-end surplus.
Oh, okay, all right.
So when we
Yeah.
voted our year-end surplus, we
Yeah.
voted to say that we wanted, but now we have to formally request it.
Formally
to
request
the
it,
town.
okay. All right, I was thinking that this was
Yep.
something else. Okay, I will take care of that.
The other update was CPAC went through their elections, and Kelly McGee is president, and our own Amanda Zani is now vice president of CPAC. And they set dates for CPAC meetings. There's three of us that are kind of sharing the liaison responsibility. I said I would cover the day meetings, and we'd all kind of split the nighttime workshop things. So they skinnied it down, but that was great news. They've got, and Jenny Milanowski has stepped off the board as president. She's served 2 years as a president. So she's no longer formally on the board. I think she's going to continue to do some of the communications and marketing, but she's kind of scaled back her commitment there a little bit. So it was nice to see the next generation of leaders step up. And then the last thing was just, you saw it come out, but we're doing a budget and finance meeting next Thursday at 2:30, so it's sub of the whole. So anybody is welcome. Talk about capital budget requests.
Okay.
Our favorite topic. That was it for me.
I'm just gonna report that there is an alternative energy committee meeting on the 21st at 7:30. And on the agenda is ways to partner with the schools. So we're just gonna I'm just gonna kind of keep an eye on that. Obviously, school's not in session. There's not gonna be any movement on that until school is. So, they'd like to participate in some of the classrooms, maybe have an expert come in and give a speech or alternative energy. So, but we're gonna kind of put the hold on that until school's back in session and figure out what maybe how we can work together.
And if I'm remembering the conversation with Carolyn that we had back in June, she had said that it would be super helpful if they actually had a list
Right.
of speakers and topics so that they could literally kind of have a Chinese menu of,
Right.
gosh, I'm doing a unit on, and oh, look, there's somebody in town that can
Right.
pop in. So I think if they could actually do that list, that might spur the conversation in the fall when school's up and running
Yeah.
and people are kind of able to talk about it.
Right. So I will bring that up at that next meeting.
An update on policies.
Oh,
You want to? Well, we met today with Louise. To review a couple of policies, so we have a couple in the J category with students. A couple that have come up that we wanna try to, Jen and I are gonna try to meet in 2 weeks again and sort of, get those ready for early September. And then another one that's sort of ongoing is just to separate our bullying policy out into procedure and protocol. It's basically all in the policy now, but it probably should be separated. So working on who's doing what for that, to just write out the protocol, and then the mask policy is pretty standard, save a couple of very minor things, so that's kind of where we're working on that for two of the policies for early September. Louise will give an update on the bullying, how to do, when the protocol will be ready so we can approve the policy, and then we'll start tackling that nice long list that Max sent us.
Exactly. Good.
So yeah, we met today, meet in a couple weeks, and then probably pretty regularly throughout the year.
Excellent.
Well, other subcommittee, I mentioned it, but we're going to get a security subcommittee meeting on the table for before school starts. I think that week of the 21st, Louise is gonna be quite busy.
I think so.
Just so that CPD knows where we are with the projects, and that we can, further explore how we move ourselves culturally as a district. And I'm very interested in knowing, what are the challenges that CPD is seeing now with kids, because I'm hearing stuff that's like, blows my mind, about risky behavior and things that kids are doing, and so just like to get Jay's take on it. I know he's had a fun summer with rec. And also, we're scheduling 2 superintendent evaluation subcommittee meetings based on the annual calendar of September 20th, with Louise presenting her goals. Just trying to sit with her and help her and provide support.
Thank you.
So,
Good. And speaking of goals, we need to schedule a second meeting for our goals. And Barb's away, is it next week, the week of the 16th? So that didn't work. So if we can
I'm
maybe
kind of
pick
gone until
another.
till the next school committee meeting.
I'm sorry?
I'm pretty much gone until the next school committee meeting.
Oh, okay, the 23rd,
Yeah,
okay. So I was actually thinking of an off week, school committee wise.
I can Skype in too, or whatever too, if you want. I mean, I'm available,
Okay,
but just not here,
all right.
but I'm whatever.
that week of the 28th is fine.
That week works fine for me, if it works for everybody else.
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
I can make it work.
Okay.
Depends
And-
on it depends on the day. Which day were you thinking?
It doesn't really matter to me. I would prefer to stay away from the end of the week because of the holiday weekend, but,
I can't do the 30th.
okay.
But I could do the 20th and the 29th.
How's everybody else's schedule?
I think I'm okay.
I think I prefer the 29th. If that,
I'm fine with that.
okay.
Okay. Barbara?
I think I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right, so if we could maybe have this room, Louise, can you check and make sure it's
Give me the date again.
available? It's the
29th.
29th, and what
7
time?
o'clock?
7 o'clock, does that work?
Earlier would be better if we can, but it's just even an hour earlier for me would be better.
6, all right, Jen?
6 work?
Yeah, I can make it work.
Okay. Okay, and I had, Louise, I meant to call you today to see if Jennifer had printed out what Ellen had sent. I forwarded it to her.
I
It was on the, at least, that was this one.
It's on the table.
I had 2 copies.
Oh,
Maybe I
okay.
got
yours.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, great.
It's on the table.
Excellent, thank you.
And Ellen, it looks what you did was just keep the headers. The only one that you changed was student achievement, and you just basically dropped in the sticky notes type
Yep.
of. Okay.
Yep.
Yep,
So nothing's polished, it's literally,
it was every sticky note.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there were a lot.
Okay.
We had a lot of ideas.
The
Okay.
only thing I didn't, I take it back, it wasn't every sticky note, if there were duplicates.
I would hope.
I didn't write middle school study 4 times.
Good.
I
But a
suppose
lot of us had,
I could have put the number, I can go back and put the number
No,
of,
that's good.
but a lot of us had the same thoughts, so
yeah.
that's good.
So the goal of the meeting on the 29th would be to come in with thoughts around if we want to tweak the high-level goals, what that wording would look like, and any cleanup. I mean, obviously, it can't all be action items. We're gonna have to do some thinning of the herd in terms of action items, but I mean, I think that'll be the tougher conversation, is how to thin the herd
Right.
Right,
on
right.
what our each individual priorities are.
Right.
Alright. Sounds good.
Okay. Anything else in this section?
I guess I just wanted to acknowledge the email that Barb sent out on the school committee webpage. I would love to see this somehow become just kind of an action item in our longer range goals. I mean, it's not a big one, but to me, it feels like we should probably own doing a little mini overhaul of the school committee section of the website. We have a stipended position, so if we come up with, text and
Content,
cleanup that we,
right.
concrete cleanup we wanna do, we can get it off to, John and Cassie to do it. But I thought what you did was, the draft was great, but it was almost like this could be an easy goal to check off in
Right.
September, October, and
right.
get a green light
Right.
going early in the year. So,
Good.
I like that.
I thought it's just such a helpful informational page in terms of,
Especially when you're new to coming to school
Yes.
committee, nobody tells you the rules of
Right,
like
right.
what you're supposed to do unless you sit for a couple meetings and get the
Right,
yeah.
gist, or you ask somebody.
right. No, so that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
So if we're all set, we'll move on to approval of minutes.
We have to do that and
The calendar.
Man, I keep skipping it.
Oh, wait a minute.
I guess I have to follow in order.
I know, and so, I'll take the hit because I segued right into
No, that's
facilities
okay.
as,
You threw it
as
off.
meeting
That's
report.
okay. All right, so, Katie and I met with Louise,
Yep.
and we sat and we went through last year's calendar and this year's. Katie took it and plugged in the real dates for this year. And then we moved a few things around based on how we had moved them in the past year.
Mhm.
So, this is what we came up with.
Yeah.
Great job, thank you. I only caught one little typo, fixed it and sent it off.
Just as a little bit backdrop, so brainstorming with Louise and just based on the retreat, we had all had really positive feedback on the try-its. And what we decided with Louise, that instead of kind of categorizing it to just digital learning, we would call it Educator Spotlight. And the second meeting of every month, we would have a teacher come in and spotlight something we were doing in the classroom. So not just limiting it to digital learning, it could be UDL, it could be something, we did skip a couple months, end of December, what isn't a particularly friendly time, end of the school year. So I think when I went through and counted, we've got 9 educator spotlights, so most of our months we've got that as part of our second meeting, and I think Louise even suggested it'd be great to come have some teachers do a summer curriculum update at our meeting at the end of August, when they're fresh off of all the work that they've done this summer. So that was kind of a conversion of the triads to kind of a broader educator spotlight. We kept the concept of having a tech and a SRO update. We had, I think, been ambitious and tried to do them quarterly last year, Ellen, and when we went through and redid this, we did 2 updates. For the tech, we had September and March, and for SRO, we had October and April. Just kind of 2 touch points in the year for Ron and Bart, and for Officer St. Ives to come in.
I didn't see it in April.
The SRO update?
Oh, update, there it is,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah,
Yep.
it's spelled out. I
And
was
obviously-
looking for the initial,
Oh,
and
you
it's
were,
spelled out.
maybe I wasn't
Okay.
consistent.
And obviously, if there's something going on that, you know, we think we need to add to a meeting, we can always add it.
Yep.
But we'd like to ensure that we get the updates and that they're meaningful.
Well, I think on that note, you know, on the SRO, I think what's hard is we want an update, but I think it's also good if we kind of feed them some of the things we're interested in
Yes.
hearing about, because it's rather awkward to sit here and say, okay, what do you wanna know?
Yeah.
You know,
No, and I think that September meeting is our first, or excuse me, the October meeting that we've laid out there is our first chance to go with the new model you're suggesting, Ellen, which is, let's prepare in advance a topic or topics that we wanna discuss that, or get some
Right.
feedback on.
Right.
So it is a little bit more of a robust conversation. And with SPED update, we have 3 updates from Mary Buchanan. September, December, kind of pre-budget, and then April, I think we had tried to do 4 last year. I think we actually got 3 done. I didn't feel like having an update at the end of the year wasn't a good use of her time. I feel like 3 kind of hit the mark. We did add in SEL updates just based on where that falls in the priority list of the strategic plan this year. So we've got SEL updates in October, February, and April. And those again were placeholders to make sure that we got the conversations in, but there may be timely things that come up. I think, Louise, you said that a lot of that's gonna be hitting the ground running in the second half of the year. I mean, the October, if I'm remembering the conversation we had correctly, the October update was gonna be more kind of laying out the plan and the roadmap for the year, and then the February and April would be when you were really getting into some of the action.
Social emotional.
Yeah, and you would be able to come in and talk concretely about what is happening in the district.
The first half, and Patrick does have a template sent out to teachers already with our welcome letter that went out on Friday, that the first half, for the half days, teachers will be working on digital learning, and on the second half on social emotional learning. Those are a real big focus for the year. Obviously, the first full day is security. So that calendar is out. When he gets back, he can explain that a little bit better.
Yep.
But that is how it's set.
And I think we had him in for a PD update, I can't remember when, it was the September 6th meeting,
September.
he was up, to talk about that full calendar.
Opening day and so on. Right.
We also added in a middle school update, and again, I only put in it twice in August and December, knowing that I think we all wanna hear what the plan is for the year, and I'd like to make sure we get a December update before budget season, that's really got some meat around it, hopefully at that point, so that we can be factoring in any budget implications of those.
Patrick and I are currently on the calendar to interview someone from NELMS as a consultant for middle school. So that's where we are with that. So we'll have more then.
Yep. And then I also put 2 updates for the early literacy that Lisa is working on, one in October and one in December. It was kind of, with these 2, I got 2, my thought process was, let's put 2 out there. Once the studies are really in full swing, it may just be natural that there are other points, touch points that we wanna have, but it was kinda hard to project when they were gonna be precisely until we really knew the momentum of those two projects. So that was kind of the thought process behind all of it. I've now reached out twice to Tracy and Chris to get the final FY19 budget calendar, so 2 Board of Selectmen meetings ago, they had advisory in, and advisory talked jointly with them about budget calendar. Advisory had a budget calendar, Chris had a budget calendar, I think it updated, I don't know if it was the whole committee or some of the committee that they've agreed on these summit meetings, 3 summit meetings where it'd be advisory, Board of Selectmen, and school committee in one summit meeting to kind of eliminate some of the budget cycle, you know, dog and pony show that we go through. I think there'll be another one between Board of Selectmen, advisory, and capital as kind of a summative meeting, and then I think they're gonna do another one with Board of Selectmen, advisory, and all the other town departments. But I haven't seen the final calendar. Once I get that, I just wanna double check that what we've laid out here for the annual agenda jives. I don't think they were doing anything too radical, but I just haven't seen it on a piece of paper, and I'm still trying to track that down. I think that was kind of
The highlights.
the highlights, and I'm happy to take any and all, you know, detailed edits, and I can go ahead and make those.
So, so I have a couple of comments, questions, is
Yep,
that all right?
Yeah.
So, I had mentioned this to Louise, I mean, we see enrollment every month, and I'm wondering if, it doesn't take a lot of time in the meetings, but do we need to publicly report it out every month, or is it something that could just be emailed to? I'm trying to think of the things that we can just communicate via email that's informational, to free up time during the meetings, and I thought enrollment might be one, where we get it on email monthly, and then quarterly we have a public update. I also thought the same with the bus maintenance, I mean, that seems to be moving rather well, so could the bus maintenance report be a monthly email and a quarterly public update? And I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So, and I think, you know, we can save ourselves some time. Of course, if anything dramatic happens,
Yeah.
that we'll be notified,
Mhm.
but I'm just thinking out loud on that. And I see in September 6th, we have our spring sports update, and I assume that will include the year end, that Ron always prepares spring with the year end. And I know I'm assuming for a variety of reasons why it's September 6th. I mean, it's very late in the year. And I know, was it moved there because I'm not here the 23rd?
Yes.
I mean, you can do it the 23rd, and I'll just talk to Ron separately. I
I
mean,
just assume do it on, I mean, this is for this year.
Yeah, no, I
You know,
understand, I understand.
we can always move it back next year.
Yeah.
We were just kind of doing the thinking out loud thing, and, you know, where things really should fall,
Yeah.
and where they could fall for economies of scale, and
Yeah, on October 18th, AP, ACT, SAT trend report. Last year we did it a month later, November 16th, but Louise, I assume that those data points will be available in October?
We already have the reports.
Okay, all right, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Special town meeting is October 16th.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Wow,
Nice to say that.
Yep.
okay, it's all right. I actually didn't double check that day, I was going based on my memory, that's never a good.
Yep. November 15th, fee
worth
review. I made a comment which fees, and then later on in the year, it's fees, which I thought we had already done, pre-KK and transportation. We did that this year unless we wanted to look at them again.
Well,
it's a placeholder.
my intent was to, my intent was to just have fees in there as a placeholder, but I didn't remove the pre-K and K. I guess for me, this, and maybe it doesn't belong in the annual agenda, is that we had talked about going through a cycle of just cycling through our fees.
Okay.
We wouldn't do pre-K and K because we just did it,
Okay,
but,
so
or
that-
transportation.
That confused me, all right,
Or
so,
maybe it shouldn't say vote, maybe it should say review.
well,
November
do you think?
15th is the review.
is the review,
And then the vote is December 20th. We would need to vote them before the budget cycle.
Oh, I see it.
So I'll
Okay.
just delete the pre-K and K and
And-
leave it generic, and then if we
Yeah.
decide we're not going to review fees or what fees we're gonna review,
Okay.
we'll
Yeah.
do it then.
um,
Okay.
oh, and so sorry, backtracking to December sixth. On the mid-cycle review for the superintendent, my feeling, Louise, unless you're comfortable with this, is that it's for a true mid-cycle, you only are really gonna have 2 months.
Correct.
Because you present your goals on the 20th of September, that's October, November, week 1, December. For the official mid-cycle review, I mean, we can have an update, but I don't think 2 months is adequate time to,
I tend to give you an update every month in a newsletter, so,
yeah.
I agree with you, Ellen, just now looking at that. I mean, we kind of just pulled a date out of the air, so.
That was 6 months and 6 months we were looking at, so.
But we're not, to Ellen's point, we're not actually presenting the goals until the end of September, and then we're reviewing them at the beginning of December.
It's up to Louise, but I would think sometime in the beginning of February might be an appropriate time for a true mid-cycle.
Yeah.
Thinking of January.
I actually leave it to you, so whatever time you would like a review or an update, it's up to you. I don't really have a preference.
I say we move it a bit later, Ellen.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
later too. I was thinking a January meeting, but.
Okay.
So which date are you gonna pick for the mid-cycle
Yeah,
review, Katie?
when do we wanna do it?
February 28th?
That's a tough one, just, because that's the,
Seems like January 10th or February 7th would make the most sense, right? Based on what else is on the agendas.
let's arbitrarily do February 7th.
I also may or may not be here, this is not relevant to what's on the agenda, but the December 6th one, which have seen what's on there and now not happy, I might not be here for it, but. Great.
I'm happy to move the early literacy to December 20th
20th.
meeting.
Yeah, there's no magic.
There's
We
no
were
magic
just-
in any
we
of
were just-
this, so.
I know, it's got, well, it had mid-cycle review, which it no longer has, so that helps me. It's got SPED, early literacy, middle school stuff, well, at least it's a little bit more knowledgeable. Okay.
So we're gonna move one?
I didn't want to have Lisa come twice. And part of the reason I chose the beginning of December was that if she's gonna give us a K enrollment process update, I wanted to do it at the beginning of December so we could get it out
Yeah.
publicly, and that's why I didn't choose, because nobody's gonna be paying attention on December 20th. If we go with last year's calendar,
Would the middle school one make sense to move potentially or not? Or do we want that in the beginning, do you think?
that's fine.
I don't know.
It's gonna be
I don't-
it's gonna be a busy meeting, so
Yeah.
why don't I move the
Just wondering if we might know more information later in December anyway, I don't know.
Well, this is one of these where, like we did this year, Louise and Jean did a great job of, if it
Yeah.
was plus or minus a
Yeah.
meeting, it was more,
Gotcha.
that was
If
our
one seemed to
benchmark.
be too full,
Mhm.
we kind of juggled with the,
Okay.
But it was a reminder of, oh gosh,
Yeah.
we've gotta do this.
right.
Okay.
And that's kind of what this is.
Yes. Well, it looks good though.
Ellen, did you have any other?
Well, my favorites, but maybe we can talk about it in the subcommittee, are the athletic updates. So we have January 10th for fall, and the last, the last athletic competition is the Thanksgiving Day football game. And I don't know, I don't know
We don't know
why,
why we
I
have
don't know
to
why
wait
it's,
2
I
months.
don't know why it's so challenging, so maybe, you know, in budget and finance, we can really dig into this. 'Cause if you can close out the month, in the month, I struggle with the athletic piece of it a little bit, being so delayed. But maybe it is what it is, I don't know.
You can have a conversation with Ron.
Cause some of them, I mean, for like the winter, fall seems like, I'm not really thinking this through really thoroughly, but the fall one seems like you have most of your receipts. It seems pretty straightforward. Winter seemed like the tricky month of getting all your ice time billed and all that kind of thing, like those seem to be delayed, right? Or,
Well, we're told they're delayed, but the rinks
Okay.
bill immediately.
okay.
So I think there's something in our
Okay.
process that
Yeah.
that
That's
maybe
something that's not.
we can help figure it out.
Okay.
I think Louise is right, you need to talk to Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my belief is that Ron has a very manual system. I have a much more automated system, in terms of bills and costs and those kinds of things. The other part of it is doesn't have a lot of staff.
Yeah.
And so when he gets to the end of the season, he's starting to already collect fees for the new season at the same time he's trying to close out his old season. So, I mean, I know there's some of the constraints that may not answer the question, it may be unreasonable, but it's a conversation you really need to have with Ron.
I know that Ron mentioned tournaments and championships that prolong the,
Yeah.
I'll have to ask. I think it's
Well,
something to talk to him about.
Yeah, no, and I'm happy to talk to Ron about it. And there are ideas, because I've talked to other athletic directors about how they do it, because I wanted to know, am I being unreasonable? And you know, just for MIAA tournament, after round one, if you're in the preliminary round, after that round, even if you're a home site, you don't really have to do anything, because the MIAA hires the officials, and you just have to have your facility ready. If you're away, all you have to do is call the buses. So it's busy, but it's not as busy as hosting during the regular season. So, and I'm happy to talk to Ron, and I don't know, Katie, if you wanna get engaged with subcommittee on the athletic, budget and finance subcommittee on athletics.
Okay, let's add it to the,
Okay.
To your agenda.
to our agenda for next week. I think we just need to come to a meeting of the minds, a compromise,
And to understand, I think if I could understand why it seems so delayed, I could be more patient. Maybe.
Maybe.
Might.
We're gonna get you one of those like warm rice, neck warmers.
Lavender scented. I did notice a typo in March that I'll correct. I had tech update twice, March 14th and March 21st. Ron doesn't need to come to back-to-back meetings for that.
So we don't have it on the.
So why don't we take it off the 21st then?
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great.
Because that
Dealer's choice.
has a few extra little things there.
Okay.
Jean, do you caught something?
No, I fixed it.
Okay.
It was just a typo.
Oh, gotcha. Oh. Already taken care of, excellent.
Yes.
Okay. So I will do some cleanup on this, and then circulate it to everyone, including Jennifer. This isn't something that I would say we publish on the website. This is really for our own
Yeah,
internal.
this is just for
guidance.
us.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, can we go now?
No?
Yes.
Did we forget anything else? Next is approval of minutes. And before we start, I just want to have a little conversation about executive session minutes. We do have some to be approved, and Ellen asked if we were going to do them tonight. We can do that if everybody's ready, or we can wait.
I have some edits. I didn't get to them today, I'm sorry, and I wasn't,
Okay.
I actually wanted to catch you guys just, cause there were just a couple that I just wanted to sanity check with you, and I'd prefer to do it in an executive session.
Sure.
If you don't mind, and then with
No,
those
not at
edits,
all.
I'm fine. I mean, they
Not
were,
at
they were
all.
fantastic, a couple
Yeah.
things that caught my eye.
Okay, so we will wait on that.
Yep.
And talk about the edits. We did discuss executive session minutes with Jim Hardy, and he said that they can be approved in open session, but if they're not ready to be disclosed and published, then we don't have to do that. So,
You
that
can't
was.
edit them in
No,
open session.
no, exactly.
No.
But, procedurally, they can be approved in open session, okay? All right, so.
Can I ask
the-
you a quick question about
Yes.
editing minutes in general? Like, it sometimes makes me crazy when I'm like, oh, there's a T at the end of that word instead of a D. Like, do we have to discuss that in open session? Is that a
For
deliberative-
the minutes that we're,
Yeah,
approving?
any minutes that we approve.
if we have changes, we should just address them briefly. I mean,
Okay,
we don't spend a lot of time on the minutes
okay.
these days, because Tracy does such
No,
a
yeah,
great
it's
job
a
and
lot
Ellen
faster.
reviews them.
Sometimes those super minor edits, though, I'm like, oh my gosh, can't we just email but spell the word wrong, but I guess not. Okay.
Okay, and then also, Ellen had asked me about the possibility of someone else doing the executive session minutes, just to help her out with her workload, meeting load, minutes review. And I didn't know if somebody else wanted to take on the executive session part. They're usually pretty brief. I mean, some of the content is more elaborate, because of the discussion points, but,
I can take a stab at it if you want.
okay, well, how about if we do that, and if you decide that it doesn't work for you,
Yeah.
then,
Just let me know.
I
yeah,
think what I'll try to do is probably keep that on my computer, so.
yeah,
Exactly.
okay,
Do
All
them,
right.
do them while we talk.
yeah. Okay, that's great, thank you. So,
Thank you, Barb.
Sure.
So, school committee meeting minutes of July 12th, 2017. Does anybody have any comments, changes? You all set? Okay. Do you have something circled at the top, though?
The date. I just.
You just circled it?
I just
Oh,
circled the
okay.
date,
Okay.
just
I just wasn't
orient
sure.
myself, no,
Yeah,
it wasn't
good.
added.
Okay, all right, so do I have a motion to approve the Cohasset School Committee meeting minutes of Wednesday, July 12th, 2017?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, and then we have minutes of the Cohasset School Committee meeting for Wednesday, July 19th, 2017, that also included our goal development workshop with Jim Hardy from MASC. Does anybody have any comments? No? Then could I have a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, July 19th, 2017?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Typically, if this were just a workshop, we wouldn't have to have minutes or, approvals, whatever. But because we started the meeting as a regular meeting,
Yeah.
because we had a warrant and we had some coverage of the goals, it was helpful to have this captured in this way. So, thank you. Okay. So this is going to be Barbara. I don't have any topics not reasonably anticipated. School website, formal accounts, I'll do that formal transfer request. Could I have a motion to move to executive session for exemption number 3, strategy and preparation for collective bargaining with union personnel?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call please.
I, Barbara Steffen.
I, Katie Dugan.
I, Gina Stino.
Hi, Ellen Mar.
Hi, Jim Madden.
Okay. And we will come back to regular session just to adjourn.